Welcome back, everybody. We are back today with another video. We are going to watch World War II German super soldiers high on meth by Simple History. It got 1 million views in 9 days, so it should be good, right? And you should know that I am German. And the only thing I know about drugs related to the world wars, is that the government or the military gave the soldiers amphetamines and crack, whatever, different kind of drugs, so they could perform better during war, so they could kill the other people more efficiently. Okay, let's watch this now.
German soldiers on methamphetamine. On May 10, 1940, German troops crossed the border to the west of the country and so commenced the Battle of France. In just 46 days, the French army had been defeated and Germany had established control over Western Europe. This was a glorious victory for the German army, but a massive disaster and pressing crisis for the Allies. The success of the campaign was a glorious victory for the German army, but a massive disaster and pressing crisis for the Allies. The success of the campaign largely came down to the intricately planned tactics of the Germans, who used panzer troops to break through the Ardennes and then encircle the British and French troops in the Low Countries. It was an unexpected, but above all, remarkable maneuver planned by Erich von Manstein and conducted by Heinz Guderian.
What's wrong with this tank? Is it stuck in the mud? That doesn't happen to German panzers. Fake news.
After the campaign was over and victory was secured, Nazi propaganda credited the success to the superiority of the German soldier, his bravery, and his high spirit. This was not entirely the truth, however. In reality, many of the soldiers were not driven only by enthusiasm, but also by a newly invented synthetic stimulant, methamphetamine. The Nazi regime was characterized by its discriminatory laws against those it considered to be racially impure. It founded its ideas upon the concept of a perfect
Just to let you know, this, what you see right there, is basically a family tree. It shows your parents and grandparents, how much Jew they were. So if it's completely black, they were Jews. And if it's completely white, they were not Jews. When you are a half Jew, you are considered mixed race second degree. If you are a quarter Jew, you are considered mixed race first degree. And if you are 3/4 Jew, you are a full Jew, and then you are pretty much fucked. At least 70 years ago or more. Let's go.
Considered to be racially impure. It founded its ideas upon the concept of a perfect Aryan race and created extensive lists of those who did not fit this image. This included Jews, disabled people, the mentally ill, and criminally insane. A lesser-known category was drug users. Under German law, abuse of drugs was punishable by death. A prohibition of morphine, heroin, and cocaine led to an interest in new synthetic compounds, which at the time were not considered drugs, but rather incredible, non-detrimental brain food. In the late 19th century, two powerful stimulants were discovered, amphetamine and methamphetamine. At the time, there were no records of any harmful side effects, and they were widely used for a number of purposes. One notable case was the use of the drugs by American athletes during the 1936 Olympics in Germany. The Olympians who had used the amphetamine-based substance called Benzedrine showed remarkable results during the Games. The effects of Benzedrine were noticed by German pharmacologist Fritz Hausfeld, who started research into the stimulants. In 1937, he began work at the Berlin-based Temmler Pharmaceutical Company, where he created methamphetamine using a new, unique synthesizing process. Later that year, the company patented the substance under the trademark of Pervitin. A close natural comparator to methamphetamine is adrenaline. Unlike adrenaline, however, the man-made substance does not affect blood pressure and therefore lasts longer and is often more effective. Methamphetamine transfers dopamine and noradrenaline from brain cells to synaptic gaps. This process causes rapid communication between brain cells, which in turn increases one's energy and heightened senses. The effects of the drug can last for over 12 hours. Directors at Temmler's Pharmaceuticals were thrilled with the new product. Its popularity skyrocketed as soon as it was put onto the market. Sold in small tablet containers, Pervitin was used across the mass market, and many businessmen, students, nurses, trained truck drivers, and factory workers used it. It appeared that almost the whole of Germany was hooked on the wonder drug.
I didn't know that it was so widespread and common that people took it. So basically everybody was a junkie. But I guess that's how it is with new things. There used to be Coke in Coca-Cola. So
Professor Dr. Otto Ranke, director of the Research Institute of Defense Physiology, had noticed the mass popularity of Pervitin. He had previously noted that the chief enemy of a soldier was tiredness and fatigue. When tired, soldiers were unable to perceive things correctly or react adequately in the case of danger. Morale and enthusiasm also saw a sharp decline in reaction to lethargy. A powerful stimulant such as Pervitin seemed like a perfect solution to this problem. And so, in turn, Ranke started testing its effects on medical officers. He concluded that the drug was ideal for soldiers. He noted that if appropriately applied, it could relieve them from tiredness, increase their combat abilities, and thus give them an advantage over the enemy. Ranke himself took 2 Pervitin tablets per day to improve his performance in the lab. Even though Ranke overwhelmingly promoted the positive effects of methamphetamine, he later stressed that Pervitin was also very addictive and had a number of other negative side effects. He warned Army officials that the use of Pervitin should be considered with the greatest caution. On September 1, 1939, German troops marched over the Polish border. In the first days of the invasion, it became apparent that the Polish army was simply no match for the advancing Germans. Particularly noteworthy were the panzer troops and reconnaissance units who crossed vast distances in a short amount of time. The units maintained a high movement speed day and night while keeping their combat readiness on constant alert. The secret was, most were high on Pervitin. Medical officers in the field reported mass euphoria among soldiers, who also displayed astonishing performance in combat, fighting with little difficulty or fatigue. In just 2 weeks, German soldiers had overrun the entire country. Hitler's first significant military victory had been achieved through a high standard of order, tactics, and a copious amount of drugs.
that's so crazy to think of. The whole war was fought on drugs. Whew, you really don't want to encounter a German soldier on steroids. That's a scary thought, I'm telling you.
The success in Poland skyrocketed the popularity of Pervitin in the armed forces. Soldiers and officers alike made regular use of the drug to improve their daily performance. In fact, the Führer himself used methamphetamine in combination with various other vitamins and glucose injections. These highly potent cocktails maintained Hitler's concentration for prolonged periods of time, as well as helping him to cope with the mounting mental pressure of the war. It is concluded, however, that these also had massively detrimental effects upon him, deteriorating his mental and physical state. Not everyone, however, was impressed with the side effects of the stimulant. Leonardo Conti, the Reich's chief of health, warned of the harmful effects of Pervitin. He noted that excessive use of the drug could ultimately exhaust all physical and psychological performance reserves in the person. He also expressed his fears that the widespread use of Pervitin could lead to a breakdown in society within large parts of the population. Despite these concerns, the army was extremely reluctant to give up on methamphetamine. Germany was soon to invade France and the Low Countries. If they were to win the campaign, they were sure to need the help of Pervitin. Despite extensive planning, the Battle of France in 1940 was to be a tremendous gamble for the Germans. Their forces were still in the process of evolving into a mighty war machine, and numerically, they were still inferior to the combined forces of the British and the French. It was obvious that to secure victory, it would take intricate planning and proficient leadership. Senior military officials decided that armored troops would break through the Ardennes hills and mountains and then encircle the Allied forces in the Low Countries, in turn bypassing the highly fortified French Maginot Line. It was brilliant, but also extremely risky. The Ardennes provided challenging terrain for infantry, let alone tanks. In order to surprise the Allies, they had to break through as quickly as possible, moving day and night. Once again, it appeared that the use of Pervitin would be ideal for this job, and in readiness for this, the Wehrmacht ordered 35 million Pervitin tablets for the campaign. This time, Dr. Otto Ranke took an active role in supplying the military with tablets. He wrote a stimulant decree, a short instruction leaflet to medical officers who were to instruct each soldier accordingly. The suggested dose was 1 tablet of Pervitin per day and 2 more at night. If necessary, soldiers could take 1 or 2 more tablets.
2 more at night? You can't sleep? How did these people sleep? What?
After 3 hours. The pills would allow for 24 hours of alertness, increased self-confidence, and reduced fear of combat. In the decree, Renke also emphasized the negative side effects of using a stimulant, including a supposed belligerent mood. Many of these warnings supposedly went unheard, however. During future military campaigns, there were numerous reported cases of heart failures and suicides due to paranoia or delirium as a result of excessive use of the drug. On May 10, 1940, German troops stormed across Luxembourg and to the border of Belgium. Here they came into contact with Belgian troops hunkered down in bunker networks in preparation for the waves of German attackers. Although aware that an attack would soon occur, the Belgian defenders were caught by surprise and were soon overrun by the enemy. One after another, Dutch, Belgian, Luxembourg, and eventually French towns and cities were falling under the tracks of German panzer troops.
I don't think that's how the soldiers ran, just at the enemy in open field. That's not realistic at all.
Allied commanders were more than surprised at the rapid progress they were making. They were consistently unable to confront the enemy effectively due to their highly unpredictable behavior in maneuvers and operations. Once again, this unpredictability was yet another feature of methamphetamine use. German troops had begun fighting in completely unconventional ways thanks to the drug. The German generals, Guderian and Rommel, spearheading the attack, also made impromptu plans, often disregarding the orders of their superior. They had only one thing in mind: reaching the Atlantic as rapidly as possible. It was obvious from the combat experience in Poland, France, and the Low Countries that methamphetamine had provided a remarkable advantage to the soldiers who used it. They displayed combat superiority, fought without fear, and perhaps more importantly, were able to fight for an unnaturally long period of time. Of course, its usage was not without consequences, and it was quickly discovered that its excessive use led to physical and mental exhaustion, and in some cases even death by heart failure or self-inflicted wounds, just as Leonardo Conti had warned in 1939. For these very reasons, the German High Command decided that to mitigate and avoid these potential issues, they would begin to limit the amount of the drug that would reach the front line. Towards the end of 1941, within the civilian market, the drug had begun to fall from popularity. This came as a result of its manufacturers officially recognizing its highly addictive nature. The drug remained in military service right through the end of the war, however, finding a new lease on life in the brutal conditions of the Eastern Front, where once again, it proved its worth by turning tired and dejected soldiers into enthusiastic fighting machines. Surprisingly, variants of Pervitin, manufactured by the original company, Temmler, continued to be issued to German soldiers up until the 1980s. Both East and West German troops had access to these pills until finally the Bundeswehr in the 1970s and eventually East Germany's National People's Army in the 1980s discarded the pills from standard issue medical supplies.
Standard issue. Yep, that's how you look when you're on amphetamine. Okay, that's it. It was a pretty long video, but we learned something. If you want to win a war quick, put your soldiers on drugs. I mean, today this wouldn't be effective anymore because most wars are fought with drones and rockets now, missiles. So yeah, but they had the overhand. And if you want to win a war, you give your people, your soldiers, whatever makes them more efficient. And doesn't matter the side effects, right? You gotta win a war. You've got a war to win. Doesn't matter what it costs. It already costs the people's lives. So what is a few side effects, right? And that's why we have to say that German engineers are the finest in the world. Not according to the panther who got stuck in the mud. Alright guys, let's call it a night. See you tomorrow, okay?